We begin with Procreate, where I started my letters. Right here you can see I'm dissecting parts that overlap. You're going to need to do that before you bring it into Nomad Sculpt. You separate it like I'm doing here. This is only if you created letters that overlap each other. It's going to be important once you bring it over there. Okay, now we're in Nomad Sculpt, and I'm using a plane for this. It's best to use a plane, I've heard, because you get better results. Now I'm going to multi-res this because it gives it a much better, cleaner look once you do the mask here in a moment. I'm using the symmetry plane to kind of line things up. See how you get better results once you do that? So you line it up, you figure out where you want to put it, and then you release and go to your gizmo. I think it's coming up eventually. Any day now. There we go. Okay. So you raise that up. You know, you want to do it enough to get it, pretty thick, because you may want to adjust the letters thickness at some point, or character thickness. Here is where you take off the mask once you adjust your thickness. I wanted to go a little thinner, so I deleted it there. And now I'm just going in to take a look at everything. Making sure. You're going to get jagged edges no matter what, but once you multi-res and use the smooth tool, that stuff will go right away. Right here, I'm just adjusting everything, making sure everything lines up. Finding out where the pieces are first. Just making sure everything lines up and matches. Later on in the video here, I'll import my sketch so that I can have, and use it as the background image so I can have it lined up, pretty close to what the original looked like. Here's where I import the image. Everything's nice and adjusted. I lined it up, changed it to matte cap. I adjusted a couple of the letters already. I started with the Z, I think. And then right here, I'm noticing that jagged edge on the Z. But I'll go in and clean that up later, because it's gonna help when you try to it's gonna stay there sort of when you try to use the smooth tool. You'll see little holes, little pockets, but all that stuff can be fixed, as I'm sure you all are aware, if you're using this program as much as I am. So right here, I'm raising it up there, checking out everything, moving each piece. This is how I get my dynamic effect to my letters. This is definitely part of my process. Earlier, I took some of the letters and kind of adjust the, where they stood. Maybe one further back, one was a little further forward. Excuse me. Now I'm just going in and adjusting things and giving things, their own little unique shape, contour. I think it just adds to the overall look of it, especially when you have parts like this overlapping each other. You know, it's just, it definitely, graffiti is definitely a freeing art. You know, it's always been my first love. You know, I've been drawing ever since I was 8 years old, so I cannot stop, and I won't. So that's where I made the split to get the two parts in there. But that's okay, because if you adjust, you know, you give each part a dynamic there. Yeah, I went back a few steps just so it could be even. You just decrease the size of your tool and just adjust as you see fit. You know, not affecting that split area, because once you merge the two pieces together, you know, you want to have a smooth seam. Or you can use a smooth tool, which I'll do with the Z at some point at the end towards the end of this video. Just making sure everything's nice and smooth. You don't want to do too many areas, you know, raised up, because then it starts to look a little bumpy, you know. And you want it to possibly look as smooth as possible, depending on what your, you know, choice is. You know, if that's the desired look, then by all means, throw it right in there. I guess it all depends on your art style and how you want to do things. The possibilities are endless. I noticed this E wasn't really touched upon. I kind of want to separate the way each one looks. This is SEDEZ, by the way. So you guys can get an idea of what you're looking at. I decided to go a little different with this one. Dip down on the end of that swirl there. And then I think I pushed back towards the bottom. Yeah. So just give it some curvature. You know, so when you're looking at it from different angles, you can see. I think this is where I tried to adjust, but as you can see, slightly see, it gave it a little bit of an edge. And it's just more work when you're, I try to be efficient, you know, when I'm doing this stuff too as well. I mean, I'm in no rush, obviously, but I just feel like efficiency is good, because then, you know, you'll have time to create more artwork later, you know. So just something I like to do. So I booleaned here. I added the two pieces of the S together. And I remesh at 500, voxel remesh. You don't have to voxel remesh. You can do boolean. I mean, I actually did voxel remesh instead of boolean here, but I use 500 because it seems to give me the best results once I'm smoothing, as you can see. It's just, I feel like it's so much better. Voxel remesh is, in my experience, it's only been good for certain things. Particularly this, what I'm doing here. It may just be, I'm not really sure, but it may just be, excuse me, when you bring, it all depends on your topology initially. You know, how many vertices you come in initially with, I think. I'm not too sure, but it seems to work out pretty well for me. So I use 500. But definitely try it out to see, you know, how your pieces come out. And I'm just smoothing along right here. I didn't spend too much time smoothing. I just really got the big surface areas and like the edges. That's really all you need because everything else comes in smooth. Good practice too would be to, chop off the top when it's initially flat once you first bring it in. I saw that done too as well. So yeah, I'm just smoothing along, making sure everything is good. A lot of times when I do this, I'm just looking for better ways as I'm working on something. I try to look for better ways to do it the next time. I'm pretty sure some of you can relate to that. This definitely is a satisfying process though, smoothing everything out. It just really feels like actual clay. It's amazing what this app can do. And yeah, a lot of these holes and little ditches and stuff, you're gonna get those before you come into here. But it all depends on it doesn't depend on it, but initially in Procreate, when you create your drawing, you want to make sure that that's as sharp as possible too before you bring it into here. This way you can avoid pockets and holes, and that could just be from the cutout. Here I skip to the Z, and now I'm just kind of smoothing that out. As you can see, I cut the Z where that little seam is. You can see it going towards the upper right, right where the hole is. But it's smoothed right out, and I really feel like that 500 is the lucky number. I think that's the highest you go before it starts to turn orange, getting into the red zone. You never want to go more than 500 in my experience. So that's just what I use. And here's towards the end. What we're doing here is if you want to outline, you just highlight a second copy, and then you go into, or you mask a second copy, and then you go in, and then you want to use fill, where you see I'm choosing, shell, and then hit extract, and in a few seconds here, you'll see it bubble up. It'll get larger. Here it comes. Boom, right there. And then that'll be your outline, because this is your shell of what you made a copy of. It becomes the shell. So you go in and you just adjust your original piece, and you pull it up. I think this is because I didn't take off the mask. I couldn't pull it up initially, and I just went to the bottom piece, the actual shell, and pull it down. And see, this is what you get. You get like an outline, and you can change the thickness of that inside the masking option. You can change how thick you want it to be. You just adjust there till you get where you want to be. A lot of times I take my time to move things around and see just how it's looking. Here's where I start to add color. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's my process, and gals. I take, I just take time and make sure everything's right and looking good and adjusted. and then I color it after and add some, some cool stuff to it or whatever I want to do, just make it look, graffiti-ish, if that's even a word. Thank you all for watching my video, and if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. There'll be more to follow.